very, very simple. All that you can
We're going to get started in just a minute. We gave you a little extra time to sit.
Hello, how are you all doing? Thanks so much for being here today. Hope you've all enjoyed your cruise. All learned plenty of good stuff about plant-based nutrition, all the benefits of living the plant-based lifestyle. And I am really grateful to be here because I get to tell you about another huge benefit of living a plant-based lifestyle, and that is the ethical benefit, which is, in my opinion, even more important because we're not just talking about living a few years longer, each of us, but we're talking about reducing an incredible, astronomical, incomprehensible amount of needless suffering and violence happening every single day to our fellow sentient beings that we share this planet with. And when you really start to delve into the ethical side of a plant-based diet and you start to understand all the harm that is caused inside factory farms and slaughterhouses and everywhere in between when we decide to consume meat, dairy, and eggs. Any person with a shred of compassion, anybody who is against violence, anybody who believes in justice and peace and fairness, this becomes a very, very important part of the reason why we do this. So it's so interesting, isn't it, that not only is it the healthiest diet, but it is also the most ethical, the path to peace, the most environmentally beneficial, and also the most delicious. So we got it all, and this is such a big topic, and that is why not only living the lifestyle is important, but also learning how to recommend this lifestyle to others. There's so many reasons, isn't there? We want a future for our children to live in and be able to enjoy. We don't want to go to war over water. We want fish to still be in the ocean, would be good. And we don't want all the problems that are associated with climate change and everything, which basically all comes back to because animal agriculture is destroying the planet. For the most part, that is one of the biggest causes of so much of the environmental destruction that we're faced with today. And we want to share this message because our family, our friends, 1 in 2 people, I just found out earlier today, in America are diabetic or pre-diabetic. 1 in 4 people are going to die from heart disease, which is almost entirely a preventable disease, which means our loved ones who are suffering and dying decades before their time could enjoy a much richer, more comfortable, longer life. You know, and these are very serious things. Anybody who has been in a family with somebody who has suffered from cancer or heart disease or diabetes or any of these problems that we know now we can prevent or at least very much relieve. This is something that you get so passionate about trying to tell people, just eat plants, just don't eat animals. And it can come out in all kinds of ways. And some of those ways are really good, and sometimes tough love is excellent. And some of those ways are really bad. And it can make people put up their defenses and almost burn the bridge of you trying to communicate this message. Sometimes you go so hard on people, they're like, okay, I can never talk about this again to this person. I've just said too much, and anytime I open my mouth about it, this is basically the end of our relationship. It's a passionate topic. And then obviously, you're talking to people who are animal lovers, you're talking to people who are against animal cruelty, you're talking to people who never would be the one to go and slit an animal's throat for a meal when they could have easily eaten something else. So we're talking to people who very much are in line ethically and compassionately with this way of living, who often are saying, don't tell me, I don't want to know, don't spoil my dinner. And you have to become a professional dinner spoiler. That is your new role. So it takes time to learn how to navigate the long list of questions and rejections that people have. It takes time then, again, to learn how to do it in an effective way, because even if you have all the facts and all the figures and you know every single statistic and every single thing happening, if you don't deliver it well, then that could be the entire difference. So it's about knowing what to say, knowing how to say it, and then a third part of it is also who you are when you say it. Are you practicing what you preach? Are you living the lifestyle to the best of your ability? Are you being compassionate while you talk about people being compassionate? You know, that's not always easy. So I've been a vegan for over 5 years now. I dove straight into activism. The day I went vegan was the day I started that year-long vow of silence. And it's ironic because I didn't talk about veganism for an entire year, and then I have not shut up about it since. I don't know, there's not many people out there that have talked more about this than me. There's a lot of people out there talking a lot, and yeah, so you learn a lot when you're out there, when you're making videos, when you're writing about it every day, talking about it every day. When you can't sit at a table with somebody without listening to the conversation, just waiting for that opportunity where you're like, oh, you've got a dog. That's all right. Animal lover, me too. Did you know? So, yeah, I'm just going to share with you all today how to be a compassionate vegan advocate, because it's something we should all be doing. And I'm going to get more into that really soon. But first, I know some people are here who I've already spoke to already since I've been in this room, came because somebody else told them, I watched this speech the other day, my one from a few days ago, and you had to come and listen to him. And so I don't want to jump the gun and go straight into advocacy. What the hell was that? Dinosaurs back. I don't want to jump the gun and get straight into advocacy without just giving a little bit of time to what veganism is, for those people who don't know, or think they know a little bit, but maybe it just would help to hear a little bit more. Because a lot of people think that veganism is this extreme, out there, incredible feat that they could probably never achieve, and you know, you have to be an animal lover, and you have to love tofu, and you have to all these little things. And I just want to tell you what it is basically right now. Veganism is just the answer to the problem. The problem is that we use animals. We use them for food, we use them for clothing, we use them for medical testing, we use them for entertainment, we use them for work. Humans believe that we are superior to every single other animal species, as we are an animal species as well, to the point that we can enslave them, we can mutilate them, we can test our products on them, we can torture them, we can confine them, we can breed more of them into existence to do all of it all over again, and then finally we can end their life, we can murder them. I would very much say it is a form of murder, in a legal way, totally legal, totally normal in our society, seen as necessary by the vast majority of us. And veganism is the answer to that. It is saying, actually, this is wrong. If you wouldn't want to be slaughtered yourself, even if it's humanely, if you wouldn't want to be humanely slaughtered, you shouldn't humanely slaughter somebody else. Or you shouldn't pay somebody to humanely slaughter for you, which makes you equally responsible for the killing. The reason why I would say it's murder is because they are people too. Other species of animals are individuals just like us, with their own heart, their own brain, their own thoughts, emotions, feelings, their own family, their own communities, their own ways of communicating, and everything else that, why we would call ourselves people, except for species. We say human people, and a lot of people say they're things, they're some things. And what I would say is, if you break through the species barrier and just look at them for who they are, every reason why we are people, they are people too. And they should be in our moral consideration, because we want to be in moral consideration too. We create laws for us that protect us from violence because we don't want violence perpetuated against us. They don't want that either. They deserve that same basic right. Not the right to vote, not the right to drive cars, although I think people do train certain animals to do that, but I don't advocate that. But that's how smart they are. You know, we got to stop seeing them as less than us. Or even if you do see them as less than us, Okay, you don't need to agree that we're all equal in the ways that matter. It doesn't even matter. All you need to agree with veganism is this: causing unnecessary harm to animals is wrong. If you agree with that, you have veganism in your heart already. If you've ever seen somebody or footage of it or heard a story about somebody kicking a dog or hurting a cat, and that has made you feel like that was a bad thing that person did, all veganism is about extending your circle of compassion beyond dogs, cats, and dolphins, and whales, and humans, to also pigs, cows, chickens, fish, and everybody. It is not perfection. There's no perfect way to live 100% harm-free. It is just about striving to cause the least amount of harm as practically possible. So that means we start with the worst thing we're doing. What by far is causing more harm than anything else? Our food choices. So that's where we start. We stop eating meat, dairy, and eggs. If you want, you can have the vegan meat, vegan ice cream, vegan milks, and vegan eggs, or scrambled tofu. Or you can do what you've all been learning about on this cruise and just eat a whole foods plant-based diet. Isn't it interesting that the diet that is best for us is also best for the planet and best for the animals? It's no coincidence. And veganism, again, it's not some Herculean feat that can only be achieved by the most strong-willed. Trust me, I've met all kinds of vegans. And again, you only need to agree with that one thing. So you just start making swaps in your life. When you need to get a new jacket, don't buy somebody's skin. Don't buy a jacket with somebody's fur on it. Those animals were killed specifically for that purpose. Get a different jacket with some plant-based materials, or even synthetic materials. When you want to get a burger, get the Beyond Burger, get a veggie burger. Basically, it's very simple. It's nothing unachievable. In fact, it's the least we should do. So the least we should do is stop hurting them. And I want to go a little further with this to tell you, to show you what's actually happening. It's so easy to talk about it. You know, they get mutilated, their beaks are cut off, their tails are cut off, they're castrated without pain relief, the babies are stolen from their mothers, the baby boys are stabbed in the throat and hooked upside down and turned into hamburger meat or whatever else. It's easy to say all these words and it means something, but seeing it means so much more. Because this is something that's hidden from us almost always, behind closed doors. Paul McCartney said, if slaughterhouse walls were made of glass, everybody would be vegetarian. And I would take that further and say, yes, that's true. And if egg farms and dairy farms also had glass walls, every vegetarian would be a vegan. So what I just want to do right now, and I would really appreciate if everybody could stick with me for this, because this is the hard bit. And then I'm going to go back to all the chill stuff where we get to talk compassionately and all the fun stuff. But what I think would be really beneficial for everybody here, vegans, non-vegans, people curious, people who know nothing, people who have watched hours of footage and people who haven't. You barely ever see this in your life. Most of us, when we go vegan, we shy away from this type of footage. We don't want to look at it anymore. I'm vegan, I don't need to see that anymore. But I would suggest that this is probably what sparked your compassion in the first place. And it doesn't hurt to put more fuel on the fire. In fact, it's a very good idea, if you can handle it. Some people are extremely sensitive. Okay, of course, if you've got to look away, look away. But these animals, the 8,000 million sentient beings being murdered by our species every day, they never get seen. They deserve us to bear witness to what's going on so that we have a better idea of who the victims are and so that we feel more motivated to fight for them. Does that sound fair enough? There's a good quote by somebody who inspired me very much, Gary Yourofsky. He said, if it's not good enough for your eyes, why is it good enough for your stomach? Right? So, for one of the few times in your life that you're probably going to see something like this, maybe a dozen, maybe one or two. I've spoken to people who are 80 years old who've never watched this before. There's a 5-minute video that I put together the other day, which I'll just talk you through. Can somebody turn the lights off, please? And yeah, I think it's really important that we remember who the victims are and what's going on. What about these ones? Is that possible? That's better. Okay, right from the start. Can you make the screen bigger too, please, bro? It was bigger the other day. Is that possible somehow? Because it's very small. Yeah. I mean, can you like? I don't know. That's strange. What about this? What about right down here? What's that? That ain't it. Hey, well that's a bit better, but I don't know. It was across the whole thing the other day.
That's on the projector.
What about on the projector? Can you twist that? And... or not? That ain't it.
In the morning, they forcefully heard it.
Oh, can you also turn the sound off? Because I'm just going to talk people through it. Thanks, man. Is that as big as we can get it?
It's that one.
Yeah, it's that one, yeah, but it's just, it was way bigger the other day. What a shame.
Yeah, it's on the projector.
Okay, so, brother, it's on the actual projector. It's a way to enlarge the project. That dude's behind? Excuse me back there. Dude's behind. Is I don't see anybody. There's a drum kit, which I might have a slam on later. Thanks, man. I'll tell you a little bit about the footage you're going to see before we watch it. There's a documentary that's recently come out last year, actually. It's called Dominion. Dominion is all Australian footage. Australia is seen as one of the highest regards for humane practices. So just to tell you, humane, the word means to show compassion. And it's just a very clever marketing tactic by very powerful industries to make otherwise good people, consumers, contribute to something that they would never be okay with. So humane doesn't actually mean anything for the animals, which I think you'll agree after watching this footage. Humane should only be used for humane acts. There's no benevolence, there's no compassion in what happens inside of a slaughterhouse, no matter how much they like to tell us that. So this documentary, Dominion, it is all investigative footage or undercover hidden cameras. It took 7 years to collect all this footage. It's very, very hard for people to collect footage from factory farms and slaughterhouses. In fact, in the US, progress. There's the maps. Something going on here. Okay, I got one more idea, bro. Thanks, I really appreciate you trying. Would you potentially, you know how you can right click and try to open it in a different...
Yeah, I did it already. I'll try now.
Alright, thanks man. Thanks so much. Sorry to bother you with this. In the US, if you get tried for collecting footage from a factory farm or a slaughterhouse, you will be tried for eco-terrorism and put in a terrorist facility. Okay, and what is terrorism? It's acts of terror, acts that inflict terror. Who is terrorized here? The people who are having their workplace shown, just recording it, no doctoring, no manipulating the footage or anything. All the animals who are being forced into these gas chambers, for example. In Australia, in the US, in the UK, gas chambers are described as the most humane method of stunning an animal before they slaughter them. So if we can get this going, then you'll be able to see exactly what gas chamber footage looks like. Until, thanks man, until only a few years ago. What happened? It was bigger? It was bigger and then it got small. Shit. He's never been... Are you playing with me? I turn around and saw. Oh, bro, thank you. Okay, alright. Just press pause for us, would you, man? I don't want people to not want to watch it twice. Okay, and just make it as big as you can if you could, please. Alright, that's better. Wow.
You should just press play and hold it up.
Alright. Okay, can you do this, bro? This is annoying and I'm sorry. Someone else might want to do this, but can you press play and
Hold it up.
hold it? Hold the thing. I know they don't pay you much. I used to work with... Alright, that's cool, that's cool. Alright. Thanks, bro. So this is what they use. They use stunning prods to get these. These animals don't want to do what these guys are telling them. They've been getting terrorized in different ways their entire life, pushed around, things chopped off their bodies. They have to use these electric stun guns to get them to go where they want them to go. And you can imagine these people are frustrated by these animals not wanting to do what they are wanting them to do. So they have to desensitize. These workers have to desensitize, and they desensitize not just to other sentient beings, other species, but also to human animals. The areas surrounding slaughterhouses, the studies show they have higher rates of violent crime like rape and domestic violence, suicide, even drug abuse. This is a gas chamber, so this is where these pigs are put. I've been outside of gas chambers many times, especially in the UK. They're extremely loud when they're in there, and you'll see how they react. So you've got to also imagine what would happen if you were in there, and then consider how different is their reaction to your reaction. They go down, the carbon dioxide is put into the air, and they start to breathe it. Apparently the feeling is similar to feeling like you're being burned from the inside, like burned alive from the inside. And as the saturation of the carbon dioxide increases, these animals start to react. It's not that they're scared of the dark, it's that they're feeling the grip of death come over them. They're losing their life. Their light is being extinguished. And as you can only imagine, because this probably never happened to anybody here, this is a terrifying ordeal. I mean, obviously no one's been in a gas chamber before, but I mean, even the spark of life being extinguished, I've had cancer. I had a few pretty close calls myself, but it was never to the point where it's literally happening. You are dying in this moment, and this is it. And you can see how they react. They are thrashing, they're smashing their head against the bars, they're truly being terrorized. This is what terrorism looks like, even though it's legal. Sometimes they use these electric prods to electrocute them, and this again is just to stun them so that they don't react. It's quite a violent process. This is everything you see here, standard and legal practice, totally normal. Sometimes they shoot them in the head, it fires a bolt through their skull into their brain. And after that, again, it doesn't kill them, it just stuns them, renders them fairly, not able to kick back too much, then they're stabbed in the throat. And that is what I would consider a murder. This is a murder victim right here. And they react just how we would react if we were in that same situation, kicking, screaming. Now, often the bolts don't work, or the electrocution doesn't work, and these animals are still alive and conscious, as you can see right here, while they are in the boiling water vat. And this is how they die. They've already gone through a terrible ordeal for their entire life. These pigs are about 6 months old, and then that's how they die. These are baby chicks from the egg industry. And because they're the males, they're seen as waste products, and they end up in a macerating machine because the industry can't use them for anything other than maybe fertilizer. So all these baby boys who are maybe 3 days old, they're born into this incredibly unnatural world, and that's how they end their life. Dairy cows, the mothers are forcibly impregnated in a device called a rape rack, commonly known as a rape rack, and they're not doing it, they're not consenting to this. So in my opinion, this is a definite rape. And that's how this happens on every single dairy farm. Standard legal practice. The babies are taken from them after they've given birth. And then the baby boys, again, are a waste product. They're shot in the head or they're electrocuted. And they're sent to the slaughterhouse. The mother's sent to the slaughterhouse 4 to 7 years later as well, after she no longer produces milk, no longer produces the product, which is all she was born for. And again, they're shot in the head or something similar, and then they have their throat slashed open. Standard, legal, totally normal, totally accepted, just for a glass of milk or a piece of cheese. And used as milk slaves. They're most definitely slaves. If they're not slaves, then why aren't they free? So this is standard legal dairy production in this country and countries all over the world. Fish most definitely feel pain. That's why they react like that. Of course they feel pain. There's many studies proving fish feel pain. It's just a myth perpetuated again by industry. And then they have the what's called the jugular cut as well. Thanks, bro. Turning the lights back on, if possible, please. So it's really easy to get caught up in the excitement of a plant-based diet. Yes! Fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains, seeds, and beans, let's go! But also, let's remember what's really going on here when we don't eat that way. Because when we don't eat that way, every single piece of meat, dairy, or eggs, it comes from that. That doesn't happen when you eat broccoli. There's a reason why people are more than happy to take their kids strawberry picking, but not so happy to take their kids to a slaughterhouse. And actually, when kids go to a slaughterhouse, how do you think they react? Disgusted, shocked, like a horror movie. What's happening? These animals are my friends. Vomiting. I remember hearing a story about a whole class of kids that went to, school kids that went to a slaughterhouse, and I can't remember the number, I think like 13 out of 15 of them were vomiting. If your food makes you want to vomit, can you put all the lights on, please? The other ones as well. If your food makes you want to vomit, probably shouldn't eat it. Probably isn't food. It's just a murder victim's rotting corpse, actually. So, how do you talk about this like this? It's hard because there's so much passion, and what I've found, the thing that makes it hardest is not being equipped to answer the questions. If somebody, it happened to me just then, but with the health stuff. I sat in front of somebody, he was diabetic, he was overweight, and I started trying to tell him all the benefits of a plant-based diet. And I just reminded myself of when I first started learning about animal rights, trying to talk about this with people. He said, well, what about this? What about that? I was like, damn it, I wish Bernard was here right now. And back in the day, I used to wish, man, I wish Gary Yourofsky was here with me now. And now people message me, I wish you were here with me today, James. And it just takes a little bit of time to get educated on this topic. Now, the benefit of getting educated on this topic is you can fully change people's lives and save people's lives. Not many topics that have such a direct and incredible benefit to it. So I always like people to see themselves, every person who gets this message, no matter what kind of person you are, what kind of job you've got, what kind of role you have, what kind of way you want to spread this message, you are really a warrior for these animals. You are a warrior for peace, for love, for non-violence, for respect. You are one of few on this planet who understands this connection, that we don't need to eat animals to be healthy, and all beings deserve to be respected. You're one of the few. You're a warrior of the light, and with great knowledge comes great responsibility. Einstein said, those who have the privilege to know have the duty to act. Einstein also said, nothing will benefit human health more than the evolution to a vegetarian diet, which obviously back then was a vegan diet. He was onto it. How do we do it then? How do we get educated? It's very easy. You're going to get the most common questions. Every time, everybody's got the same question. That guy asked me the same question I asked. The first question everybody asks, what is it? Protein. Protein, bro. What about protein? Isn't that funny? I've been in places all over the world, different cultures, and they all want to know about protein, the first thing. So what I try to do is compound my answers, because sometimes they're just being polite. I don't think this guy was that interested, to be honest. He was happy on his medications and whatever else was going on with him. So he said, what about protein? And this took a while to form this answer. At first, I didn't know. I was a personal trainer trying to answer this question. I'm like, I don't actually really know. I think it's in lentils, maybe. What about protein? Protein's found abundantly in all plant foods, and if you're eating enough calories on a whole food plant-based diet, by default, you are definitely getting enough protein. So you don't even need to worry about it. The benefit of getting protein from plant foods and not animal foods is that you're also not getting saturated fat, cholesterol, animal protein, which is linked to being a carcinogen. You're not getting the concentrated doses of pesticides in the fat from these animals who are eating pesticide-laden food and oats and all those things. You are also not killing anyone for it, and it's better for the environment. So you can get all the protein you need from just a whole food plant-based diet. If you want foods high in protein, there are some. Nuts and seeds are high in protein. Lentils and beans are high in protein. You can get vegan protein powder, pea protein, rice protein, other different ones. But ultimately, you don't need to worry about it. You are gonna get enough protein. I'm 5 years in. And then I go to my next answer without them asking it. I'm gonna answer it anyway. In fact, some of the most elite athletes on the planet are on a plant-based diet. The world record holding strongman is on a plant-based diet. Mr. Universe of a few years ago was on a plant-based diet. World champion arm wrestler, NFL players, UFC fighters, world record holding push-up endurance champion, ultra marathoners, the world record holding ultra marathoner of the Appalachian Trail, and countless others are on a plant-based diet. So they're not worried about their protein. Science and athletes. And you know who else isn't worried about protein? Rhinos, hippos, elephants, gorillas, the strongest animals on the planet all get their protein from plants. And then, you don't even need to worry about anything actually on a plant-based diet. The studies show that you're likely to have less nutrient deficiencies than people who eat a meat-centered diet. You're likely to live longer. You're likely to have less diseases, including the biggest killers that we're currently faced with. So overall, your health is going to improve. Diseases you already have could possibly reverse. Medications you're on, you can possibly get off. The opportunity for better health is endless. Protein is almost meaningless when it comes to, am I going to get enough on a plant-based diet? The only people in the world that aren't getting enough protein are people who are not eating enough calories. And that's it. And this guy's like, who? I answered like, you know, because other questions that they're going to ask are, what about athletes? Can I be an athlete on a plant-based diet? You could throw in also about, it's perfectly good for people who are breastfeeding and children and older populations as well. I answered about other nutrients. I probably would have thrown in there as well. B12. The only thing you need to worry about is B12. Everybody needs to supplement with B12 and maybe vitamin D if you're in an area where you're not getting very much sunlight. Apart from that, you are good. And that is just one spray every day or two under the tongue. Boom, that's it. Much easier than having to get yourself cut open on a hospital bed and have all those things done to your heart that I don't even know how to describe. It's like, all right. So basically it's like this. They come with all these objections and we've all had them. And your job, how good is this? To be a warrior in this army, you don't need to get a gun. You don't need to do anything extreme. Because everybody believes so many lies about humane treatment, about what's healthy, about what's not healthy, this and that. And all you have to do is learn the truth, learn the facts, which are out there, and then teach people the other side of the coin because they haven't ever heard of it before. When they say, what about eggs? What about dairy? That seems, why is that an ethical concern? You can describe what you've seen in a video like this. You can watch more videos or just read about them if you're not interested in watching them to learn the process of what happens on a dairy farm or an egg farm. And I always have this line, all animal products come from animal use. Use is a form of exploitation and exploitation is abuse. And all abuse is immoral, so it's never okay. Egg, meat, dairy, humane, free-range, organic, all of these animals, no matter how nicely they're treated, how many belly scratches they get every day, all end up at a slaughterhouse where they go in, not happily, not singly, they're forced in, and then they come out chopped up into pieces. Do you really think something humane happens in the middle there? What is that? Do you think they got tickled to death? No. Other excuses people have. So really, I don't go into free range and all that because it's about, you can't get away from what happens at the end. You can go into all free range facilities. It's just like taking 6 of them out of a cage and putting 20,000 of them into one big cage, and they have sometimes at least as much suffering in these different environments. You can go into all that, right? So they all end up at a slaughterhouse. How do you humanely kill someone who doesn't want to die? And other questions people might have, well, what's going to happen to all the animals? Are we going to get overpopulated with chickens? Serious concern, surprisingly, for a lot of people. You can just say that as the demand for animal products decreases, due to more people making plant-based choices, the amount of animals bred into existence also decreases. We'll never have a world overrun by turkeys and chickens. I think that would be a great world. It's not for everybody. And also, because we feed the animals that are here right now so much food, up to 15 times more food than what we can take back from them, we are actually taking food out of the mouths of hungry children, where 20,000 children die every single day of starvation. So this is also a cure for world hunger. There's answers to all of these questions. Trust me, I looked. I did not want to go vegan. I didn't want to go vegetarian, ever. I was the biggest meat eater. I ate meat every single meal, every single day. I really was looking for excuses not to do it. And that's what gets a lot of people. They're looking for excuses not to do it, and then they're like, I wish I never looked. I should have stayed ignorant. Now I know I have to do it. It makes sense in all the ways. So, resources for you to learn a little bit more. A lot of it's common sense, a lot of it you already understand and know, especially from being here, but there's like a top 10 common questions. So you can look up animal-rights, actually do this, animal rights FAQ. First thing that comes up in Google, there's 100 of the most common questions you'll get asked, answered by 2 people with a quote or 2. I studied that. You don't need to study all 100. You might get a specific question, so you can look up in the contents. Is it about farming? Is it about health? Is it about environment? And get the answer. You might not study it until someone asks you and you don't know the answer to the question. That's a great opportunity to go, okay, I want to learn that next time, so that when I'm asked next time, I have a better answer, I have a stronger answer. You can go to Bite Size Vegan YouTube channel. She has answered questions I never even thought to ask about why we should be vegan, and what if this happens, and what if that happens, and what about this, and what about that. She's answered it all. Also, Earthling Ed's ebook, which is a free download at earthlinged.com/ebook, which has, it's called 30 Days, 30 Excuses. So you can learn 30 days, 30 excuses.
Can you repeat that, Jay, to let me
Sorry, that was quick, and it's Australian as well. Earthling Ed, Earthling ED, Ed. If you don't know Earthling Ed, you should check him out too. He's an amazing activist. earthlinged.com/ebook. Yeah. Also got a lot of great discussions online. We do a similar type of activism. We do speeches at universities. We also both go out onto the streets and interview people. Have you ever thought about the animal holocaust? Have you ever considered what your choices are contributing to? Have you ever seen footage like this? And it's a very interesting discussion many times. Some people have never thought about this in their entire life, which is so fascinating. That's one of the most fascinating parts about it for me, that the murder victim's body part is on their plate, and for 26 years I didn't even think about what this individual went through to get to that. So yeah, it's cool. It's cool to learn, and it's cool to come out of that conditioning. There's so much conditioning, that's a big part of it. So basically that's what I'm saying. There's all this conditioning, almost everybody believes it, all around the world. Learn the answers to the conditioning. And it's like unbrainwashing people. So it all becomes clear, oh, well, if this is so much healthier and so much better for the planet, and I do hate the idea of stabbing animals to death and putting them into gas chambers, that just seems really cruel and unnecessary to me. Yes, this lifestyle definitely does sit in alignment with the core values of the kind, respectful, peaceful, loving, healthy, happy person that I'm striving to be. And veganism is just about extending a circle of compassion to everybody, and it is the golden rule in action. So it's what all the religions teach, but very few of them actually live, or they do to a point. And we all do to a point. I'm not saying vegans are the ultimate. Okay, I'm not saying that. We're not though. We've become aware of one very important, very, very dark, very, very violent part of our humanity, part of our society, our culture. We've shone light on it, and when we knew better, we did better. That's what being vegan is. There's heaps of other things to do, plastic and whatever. There's lots of things, and so we're all helping each other. Like the Dalai Lama, he eats meat. Hopefully I get to have a chat to him one day. I'll be interviewing him. It's going to get deep. But I have so much to learn from him about compassion, about just different things. He just hasn't extended it to certain other species. You know, so we're all grown, it's all just about trying to help people do better. A lot of vegans, I think, sweet, I'm vegan, I am so much better than everybody now. And honestly, some people, like, there's a lot of ego in humanity as well. Some people want that. They want to be part of this exclusive club, but no. What we should be doing is getting everybody, every single human, a part of this club. Okay, so first things first, answers to the common questions. When are you going to get the opportunity to do this? How are you going to get this message out there? You know the answers, you're itching to tell people, what do you do? Well, what I initially did was pretty ineffective. I was inspired by people who were very, very ruthless in the message, which is totally fair enough. This is what's happening. It is totally fair enough to do this however you want. Some people cover themselves in blood and run down the street screaming meat is murder. That's fine. Let's party. It's good. It's a good way to do activism. You might not want to do that. Most people don't. Does it have a place? Yes. Does it look extreme to a huge amount of the population? Yes. Some people don't want to, they take a pleasure and they never want to sit at a table where animal products are being eaten again. Does that have a place? Yes. Is that effective? In a way, yes. Does that seem extreme to a large amount of the population? Currently, yes, it does. So you don't have to do these things that seem quite extreme to be an advocate for this cause, to be a warrior for the animals. It can be very simple. You might simply have a conversation with somebody that you sit with at lunch. You might cook a meal for your neighbors or for your family, or say, hey, how about this week I cook and I'll cook a plant-based meal. And you can share recipes and you can post about these things online. You can host a documentary screening. You can write, some people write books, some people make documentaries. Some people open vegan cafes. Some people, I mean, what else do we do? Some people become doctors. Some people get everybody onto an epic cruise. Like, there's so much stuff. Some people make recipes or share books. I don't know, there's just so many ways you can do it. Me personally, I didn't stop talking for a year. That probably isn't going to appeal to many people here. But I did that. I did extreme things to get this conversation on the table. Most of us, we're busy. We don't have the opportunity to take a whole year to go and do a thing. That's okay. You don't need to also reach 1 million people through an online presence. You can just reach the people in your circle. And you don't have to sit them down and say, okay, I've learned all this stuff. And before you stand up again, you need to be vegan. That's the goal. That's the goal, let's be honest. We want that. Ain't gonna happen for the most part. I didn't understand that at first. I'm like, wow, I've learned the best information. Everybody's gone vegan now. Everybody I know is gone vegan. I sit down, I tell the whole thing, and they're like, oh no, that's cool. I'm like, yeah, so now you're vegan, yeah? And they're like, oh no, I'm not vegan. I'm not gonna be vegan. Hang on a second, do I skip an important part? Why aren't you gonna be vegan? I don't understand. I just assumed everybody was gonna take this on immediately. We're talking about decades of conditioning. We're talking about centuries of cultural conditioning. So people don't just snap out of it like that. And that's not your job. Well, it is sort of your job, but your job isn't also to do it in an instant. The goal should be, in my opinion, to move people in that direction. That's all. They might have 50 objections. Maybe you'll get through 3 of them in one conversation. Maybe you'll get through 2 more by giving them a few delicious recipes. Maybe they think it's expensive, so you teach them how cheap it is by taking them shopping or by showing them your shopping bill or just talking about how much money you've been saving on a plant-based diet. Now you haven't have to buy your medication anymore and you're not taking as many sick days from work, you know, whatever it is. And you're just moving them that direction. More and more and more each time you get the opportunity to talk to them, and then someone else is going to plant a few seeds and plant a few seeds, and that's what it is. We shouldn't judge each day by the harvest we reap, but by the seeds we sow. So just see yourself as a gardener. It's one of the best gardeners ever because you're planting vegan seeds, and that's it. Just plant a seed. Maybe you can just say a little something to somebody. Maybe you can just say one thing. Maybe you can just show them a 1-minute video or a whole hour-long documentary. And on that note, documentaries are one of the most powerful ways you'll get anybody to change. Most people I know change because of a certain documentary. One about animal ethics like Earthlings or Dominion, one about the environment like Cowspiracy, one about health like Forks Over Knives or What the Health. or a speech or something like that. Most people, it's because they sat for an hour and watched somebody that wasn't close to them. You know, like it's hard with family members or friends. So you don't want to listen to them. You want to listen to somebody you don't even know for some reason. And then you want to be like, oh, I just figured it out. Like, I've been telling you that. Like, no, I figured this out. So you want to watch this stuff. You want to get them to watch documentaries. This is years of work, all shoved into 90 minutes. And there's so much power there. There's so much, you know, it holds people's attention. It says all the things they need to hear. It's perfectly crafted to make people want to go vegan. It's 1,000 different vegan seeds, you know? So this is one of the best ways to help people do it. If you get somebody to watch a documentary, you say, all right, for my birthday, save it on the jewelry, let's have a documentary night. I really just want to watch a documentary with you. And this is what I did. Some people are like, kind of intense about it. Again, fair enough. But I'm really lucky because I've heard a lot of different stories of people who have really just burned bridges, especially with their family. I just fluked it with my family. I came home, I was working on a cruise ship, I came home from my cruise ship, I'd gone vegetarian. I said, guys, to my mum and dad, I've learned so much since I've been gone. And one of the things I've learned has changed my life forever. I'm so grateful I've learned it, and I really hope that you are open to just spending a little bit of time learning about it too. One documentary is all I want you to watch. The reason why I want you to watch it and why it's so important to me is because one, it's changed my life forever, and I want you to understand this change that has happened to me, and two, because you raised me to be good people, to be a good person. You raised me to be a good person, and I learned that there's something that I was contributing to that was very, very not in alignment with being a good person. And they're like, what is it? I'm like, oh, it's animal cruelty. And they're like, animal cruelty, I don't want to watch animal cruelty. And then I used my line, well, it's not good enough for your eyes, blah, blah, blah. And they said, you know, Dad was really sensitive to animal cruelty. He said, I don't want to watch it because I can't watch it. I said, that's all the more reason why you should. You've been causing these things to happen to them for your entire life. And don't you think you owe it to them to at least see what they've been going through for you to have chicken or eggs or meat, you know? And he said, all right, put it on. And we watched it. And they afterwards, after watching Earthlings, they said, well, that's really sad, but we're not going to change. And I was like, what the hell is wrong with you? Oh my God, parents are psychopaths. I didn't know, I didn't have a good argument, so I was just like, okay, well, thanks for watching it. You know, in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm still gonna get you, just maybe not today. You know, there's always other opportunities. So, all right, well, thanks for watching it. Always praise every good step forward. Anything, people always come to me, my spouse, I've been vegan for 10 years, they're still not vegan. You know, and they're so frustrated. I say, have they made any progress? Oh, well, actually, yeah. I'm like, have you ever really praised them? No, I just always tell them that they're not doing enough. Maybe it's because you're annoying them. You know, you just praise every step. People say, oh, you shouldn't recommend baby steps, but it's honestly like babies. They throw a tantrum when you tell them about what they're eating, and you have to just, come on, just one little step at a time. We're gonna get there. It's gonna be slow sometimes, but you know, you're almost treating them like little children. Every step praise. So they said, I'm not going vegan, I'm not changing. I said, okay. Thanks anyway for watching. I'm so grateful. At least you understand me a little bit better now. The next day, Mum bought a Big Mac burger, and then she went vegetarian, and then Dad went vegetarian about a week later. Mum started making vegetarian meals, so what was he going to do? But he was loving it. He was like, well, I actually really like soy milk. I'm like, yeah, baby cows and everything as well, remember? Yeah. And he started having lentils instead of mince in his shepherd's pie and in his spaghetti bolognese, which are his two favorite dishes. And he said, this is actually great. I don't even barely notice a difference. And I said, well, there is a difference actually. And then I went vegan and Mum went vegan basically the same time. Dad was still eating eggs from backyard chickens, and then I explained why that is still causing suffering, because when you take those eggs from these chickens, because the way they're bred, selectively bred, manipulated over so many years, they lay an egg a day instead of about 18 a year. So it's so much stress on their body. When you take an egg, it makes them want to lay another one more quickly. So it's even more stress. And I explained, that and other things. And he said, okay, I'm going to go vegan too. Took a little bit of time. I didn't force them. I didn't pressure them. I didn't condemn them. Always love and compassion. And I fluked it then, but then I went off path for a while and I got pretty hectic because I started getting a bit more of a following online and I felt like a responsibility. I want people to know how serious this is. So the more angry I am, the more seriously people will take me. And then I realized I wasn't getting that good. It wasn't that effective. I wasn't really changing people. I felt like I had the information that would change people, but it just wasn't working. And my friend said, maybe it's your delivery. You've been pretty aggro lately. I have been pretty angry. She said, why don't you just try to be yourself? I thought, that's a pretty good idea. I should try that. So I tried that. I had an opportunity to do it straight after this conversation that I had with her. And I went into my work. This is after my year of silence. I went into my work and somebody offered me a cupcake or something, a cupcake or a brownie. And usually I would have gone straight into the eggs and the dairy and the industry. I said, I love brownies, thanks for offering. But I actually don't eat brownies with eggs or dairy in it because there's so much cruelty. Not just the health stuff, but there's so much cruelty in that. Have you ever seen what they do in the egg or dairy industry? I'm like, nah. I said, I'll show you. And next thing you know, 3 of them are behind a computer watching a video I made on one of those, I don't even remember what video they were watching, one of my YouTube videos. And I took a photo of it and I sent it to my friend and I go, it worked. Doesn't mean they went vegan in that moment and they might not for 10 more years. But what am I going to do, force them? All I can do is teach them all the things that help me go vegan and teach them about these industries that I know they're not okay with and all the things that come with it, all the objections that come with it. Since then, that was a pivotal moment for me, and since then I thought maybe the best way to get a compassionate world is to model being a compassionate person. Martin Luther King said, the means we use must be as pure as the ends we seek. So we want a compassionate world, we want a loving world, we want a respectful world. It pays to be loving, compassionate, and respectful to the people you're talking to, even when they're not being that too. And that's where it gets challenging and fun, because there's all these opportunities for you to grow. So I'll give you an example. I was doing a speech in Melbourne. This was years ago, one of my first speeches. I was still learning the answers to the questions, to really formulate them in a good way. And halfway through my speech, someone came in, and he sat down, and he just glared at me. This guy's in the wrong room or something, right? This guy does not like me, I can tell. And his wife was there glaring at me. And I don't know what was going on. Then it was Q&A time, and the guy put his arm up, he said, that's all well and good, James, but what about the farmers? I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. He doesn't like me because I'm telling everybody to not buy his products. And I explained in the best way I could, it's not about hating farmers. I want you guys to survive and thrive and make tons of money. Thanks for wanting to feed the world. I just don't want you to do it at the expense of anyone else, or in a way that causes suffering and violence and slavery and cruelty. And you can do that too. There's other things to farm. So we went back and forth. That was the core of my message. That took about 20 minutes back and forth, and it was intense. And I started feeling myself lose my cool a little bit. He was being very condescending, very aggressive, and just not chill. And I was really trying to stay chill. I started losing it a little bit. And then I just felt what was going on. And I realized, there's 3 things that can happen right now. And in any time you're in this situation, there's 3 things always will happen. You are being respectful. And at some point in the conversation, they are no longer being respectful, or maybe they never were. You can go down there too and join them there, and you can bark at each other, have a little fight, and you can both walk away feeling frustrated and probably further set in your ways, we can't work with farmers. They're not reasonable. There's no chance with them. And they're going to walk away thinking, vegans, our enemies. I knew it. That's why I came here, to prove that I was right about who they are, and they don't care about us, and they're extreme and whatever else. One option. Second option, person is being disrespectful. You stay respectful, and you just rise above. Don't let them pull you down. You don't need to go down there. What good is going to happen? Nothing. You have a conversation. They're throwing it at you, and you're just coming back with the facts. You don't need to yell. You don't need to scream. You don't need to be aggressive. You don't need to talk the way they're talking to you. Will you get through to them? There's a better chance. And sometimes yes. And I've had the most incredible conversations with people who it went like that. And the third thing that happens is that they join you. Just like they can pull you down, you can pull them up. And when you're still being respectful and cool, and they're kind of throwing a tantrum, they sort of look foolish, and they realize that, and they're not breaking you, and you're not biting, and all that's left is to, okay, let's have a conversation, or to leave, but generally they'll have a conversation. And here's where the real magic is. If you can maintain your composure and get to that point where they've come up, and then you can tell them, look, this is actually, there's no hate against you, this is why I feel the way I feel. You know, what do you think about animal cruelty? Wouldn't you prefer a world without slaughterhouses? Do you know we can live and thrive without consuming any animal products, and we're likely to be healthier and solve world hunger and all these things? Most logical people are going to agree with all this. Thanks. Nah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks, brother. So that's a third option, and this happens a lot. How do you get to that point? It's hard when you're passionate about something and you want to get a message across to someone. All the emotion comes. So this is how to do it. It's easy for me to say, just be chill, just be compassionate. Like, I'm going to be so compassionate. And something like protein though. And you're like, protein again? What? This is the fourth time today. Do you not listen to the lectures though? What's going on here? So this is how to do it. It's a technique I learned through meditation. This particular technique I've done thousands of hours of now actually. And so you get better and better at it, but anybody can start. And you don't have to go to a course or anything like that. Although you can.
You did.
It's about to lose my voice. All right. You can do a Vipassana meditation course. You meditate 10 hours a day for 10 days. It's a great thing to do. If you have time, highly recommend. It's one of the best things that helped shape me into doing advocacy in an effective way. The reason why I think I've been able to reach so many people in a fairly short amount of time is purely based on what I'm about to tell you right now. Generally, when we have a conversation with somebody and it gets uncomfortable, you want to do one of two things. You either, let's say you're talking and a feeling of anxiety or frustration or anger. Let's use anger because we can all relate to that. A feeling of anger comes. You want to do one of two things. You either want to resist the anger. I don't want to feel this. Now I'm angry. I hate feeling angry. I wish I wasn't feeling angry. This person made me angry. Or you want to avoid it. You feel angry. Okay, I hate this feeling. I hate anxiety. Whatever it is, I hate this feeling. What do? I'll get on my phone. I'll eat some food. I'll drink my alcohol. I'll watch TV. I'll talk about nonsense. Whatever it is, you avoid. We are constantly avoiding, using different things as our drug to avoid how we feel. Because none of us want to feel these really shitty feelings. Right? We want to feel good, we want to feel positive. No one wants to feel angry. It's not pleasant. So we only dwell in the anger just out of ignorance of knowing how to come out of it. Same with anxiety, same with depression. I mean, you know, the depression of like the sad feeling and all these kind of things, not full on medical depression, but you know what I'm saying. So there are two things that we generally do. We resist or we run in whatever way. And both of those things are teaching you that you can't handle what's going on. So you get deeper into the reaction pattern, the habit pattern of reacting in a way that just puts you deeper into that reaction, where next time it happens, you're going to do the same thing. And this is how you come out of it. It's almost counterintuitive, but it works perfectly. Although you won't know it works until you actually try it. Because just saying it might not actually make sense. This is what works though. When you feel whatever this sensation is, don't avoid it, don't resist it. Resisting it just adds another layer of negativity. Oh, there's anger here and I don't want to feel anger. That's 2 layers. So what you do is this. There's anger. Where is it? The physical sensation of it. Where is it? Okay, it's in my chest. What does it feel like? It's tight, it's clenching of muscles, it's heat, it's some sort of pressure or pain, whatever it is for you. You describe it. So basically, you're in your conversation, you notice it. It's always going to manifest as some sort of physical sensation. There'll be thoughts and things going as well, but observe the physical sensation. It's very important, the word physical. The sensation, that is the technique. Observe that physical sensation, wherever it is. Observe it is 50% of the technique. The other 50% is to remain equanimous. Equanimous or equanimity means to not want anything that isn't already there. You don't crave a better sensation. You don't resist the sensation that's there. You're perfectly accepting of the moment, however it presents itself. No resistance. That's the 2 parts. They have to be equal. So you observe and you accept. Observe and accept. Now, in this particular situation with this farmer in the speech, I remembered I was in it for a while. Oh no, I'm feeling anxiety. I've just done this whole speech and the mood went from up here to down here when we started having this debate. I felt the anxiety, damn. And then I remembered, luckily, I don't always remember. I remembered what to do. I've spent all this time learning this technique. Do the technique. I observe the anxiety and I just accept it. This is how it is. This is the best I've got. I could resist it, but that's going to make things worse. I can't run. And this doesn't always happen. Sometimes it does. Instantly. It just lifted. And I felt so much more peaceful. And I came to this guy with a new level of peace. Brother, I understand where you're coming from. You feel threatened by what I'm saying, but I want you to know it's nothing personal. I respect you. I respect your family. I'm sure you're a good guy. The only thing I don't respect is your choice to needlessly cause suffering to the animals. That's it. And whatever else I said in this moment of just really being compassionate to this guy, I said, anyway, I got to answer some other questions. And the next question was, how do you stay so calm, man? Oh, I should probably teach people what I just did. And then a bit later, I answered some questions for 20 more minutes, and then he came up to me after the talk. And he looked at me, he still had his arms folded, he said, well, what about this, James? What about that? And I was like, well, this, crossing them off. And he looked at me and said, you just got an answer for everything, don't you, mate? And I was like, yeah, I've been reading about this a lot. And he laughed, and he said, well, maybe I'll give you a call sometime if I have more questions. And I said, I'll be waiting by the phone, bro. And he laughed, and then he shook my hand.
Nice.
And I looked at his wife, who was glaring at me too, an even stronger glare than he had. And I didn't know how she was feeling. I assumed she was still just really, really angry, because he had already shocked me. And I looked at her, and she looked at me and she goes, thank you for opening our eyes to this. And I said, no worries. No worries. And yeah, I think that's worth the clap. Because it's worth the clap because it just shows the power of, you can lift people up too. You don't have to be negative. Positive, coming from that vibration, that feeling, that frequency, however you want to describe it, of love, even to your enemy, is so incredibly powerful. And it's very attractive, and it brings people up to this better vibe, to this better feeling where better communication is going to happen. Now, I'm not saying they walked out of there and went vegan. Probably they didn't. They had a lot riding on not being vegan. But at least they walked out of there with a shift in their mentality of vegans, a better vibe. Maybe the next time they have a conversation with somebody, it won't be from, yeah, I met this vegan, but yeah, I actually met this vegan, and hurts me to say it, but he had a lot of good points. And he was a really nice guy. Breaking that extreme vegan, that judgy, preachy, annoying vegan stereotype is also important. Which leads me to the last part of what I want to say. Be the best vegan you can be in all the ways. The healthiest, happiest, most compassionate, most loving, most respectful, most educated, whatever you can do to be the best version of yourself, be it. Because you are representing billions and billions of animals, basically. You are representing all of them. They need you to be the best you can be. So take the information that you've learned from all these lectures, eat the best you can be so that you look your best and you're off your medication and getting all these incredible benefits, living a long life, or the longest you can. And that's a really good picture. People will be like, wow, I want to go vegan just for this reason. And you can say, yeah, and here's another reason, and here's another reason, and I just feel so much better since I've been vegan. I just feel so much more connected. I feel so much more love, so much more peace inside of me. You know, I've become a more respectful person to everybody. Whatever you can do, whatever you think will be beneficial in helping you become a better version of yourself, strive for it. You know, we should always be striving. Going vegan is not it. It's a great step. Vegetarian can be a good step to vegan. And then you're vegan, then become super vegan. Whatever you can do. And just remember that the animals are not going to get themselves out of this mess, out of this hell. Hell. It is hell for them. It is beyond your worst nightmare. It is worse than anything any of you, I hope, will ever endure. It is the definition of hell. It could not be worse for them. And it's for so many of them. And they are just like us. And what we do to them is just, they're going to be talking about it in the future for a long, long time, about how much suffering we cause these innocent, vulnerable, childlike, sentient beings. So remember that your voice is very important. Whether you have 1 million followers on Instagram or you have 100 Facebook friends, it really doesn't matter. Whatever you can do to plant seeds, plant them. And then you'll be doing everything you can do to help the animals. So thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much, I really appreciate it. 2:30, what time is this? 15 minutes, okay. So if anybody has any questions, then feel free, and we can get through a few.
Hi, I find the biggest obstacle to be denial. People know the facts, they've seen the documentaries, but they just love their meat.
And what we are so blessed with right now is vegan meat. We have Beyond Meat, we have plant-based meat, we have meat that looks and tastes exactly the same as meat that they're used to. So they probably think, it's okay, they're probably spreading the vegan message. So the objection that they're saying, I just love my meat, the objection that I hear from that is, I don't think I'm going to enjoy vegan food. So I would say, well, here's some vegan meat that you can enjoy. It tastes the same, it looks the same, it's healthier, it's sausages, it's the deli meat, it's tofurkey, it's whatever it is. So I'd buy them some. I'd take them out for a burger or a pizza or whatever it is. I say, not just the meat, we've got vegan cheese, try this cheese, try that cheese. Did you like that one? Or not so much? Try this one, try that one. I'd get them onto it.
Mike, I'm sorry.
That's okay, just one second. But that would be that would be what I'd hear from that objection. I just love the taste of meat. No worries. So you love food, you're a bit of a foodie, you want to make sure you can enjoy food on a plant-based diet. Here's some incredible recipes so you're not ever going to feel like you're not being satisfied from the flavor of food. And here's some vegan meats that you can try. And I start with that. And that might not be it. Then that won't be like, oh, now I know I love the food, so I'm going to go vegan. Maybe there's another thing. Maybe there's another thing. So I'd again just be trying to find out, well, what's next for you? What can I do for you today, or how can I help you? What is stopping you from being vegan? And just go through the list. Great question.
My question is whether you're familiar with the writings of Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. Even if you aren't familiar with it, your story of the farmer illustrates what his teaching is about.
Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth, was the first spiritual book I ever read. When I was 21, my girlfriend said she'd break up with me if I didn't read it. Yeah, and the book is basically about, first of all, finding your life's purpose. And to find your life's purpose, it's about getting out of your head, which is just like a record stuck on repeat, and living in the moment where you can make decisions based on real time, based on now. There's a lot of power in this moment, but we're often taken away from it by thinking about the future, thinking about the past, and almost constantly not being in the only moment that actually exists. So yes, I've read A New Earth book about 6 times, and I've read The Power of Now a few times as well. I find it very interesting, and here's another perfect example. Because this gentleman was saying that what I talked about with the farmer was basically that teaching. And yeah, he talks about a very practical implementation of the Vipassana technique, which I sat in those courses many times for, so it's a very similar technique. The funny thing about Eckhart Tolle is he is very, very wise, funny, enlightened being, to a point. We're all enlightened to a point. The only time I've ever seen him stumble, ever, and I've watched a lot of his YouTube videos and things like that, the only time I've ever seen him stumble is when he was asked about eating animals. So we all have our bias. We all have our bias, and that's why it's good to listen to everybody to a point, but nobody's perfect. Eckhart's not perfect, Dalai Lama's not perfect. If the Pope doesn't go vegan for Lent, he's far from perfect. I don't know if you've heard about that campaign, but there's some people who are donating $1 million to the Pope if he goes vegan for the length of Lent. Great initiative, I think. But yeah, so Eckhart Tolle is a great resource though to learn how to live more in the moment. How did he stumble? Just basically, he didn't tell everybody to go vegan. I don't know what he said. He said something like, just see how you feel, and it shouldn't be, how do you feel about stabbing animals to death? Oh, how do I feel about it? It should be like, well, violence is, if somebody asked him about child abuse, I'm pretty sure he would have been like, just see how you feel about child abuse. To a crowd of people who, maybe you say that to somebody very enlightened, let's say, use that word. Okay, then the answer's gonna be pretty clear. But to a crowd of people who are there, like, thirsty for knowledge, because obviously they've got problems in their life they're trying to fix, so just see how you feel about child abuse. You say, child abuse is wrong, and here's why it's wrong, or whatever. I don't know, I just found like his answer was not nowhere near direct enough, and because I don't think the dude's vegan. Because if it was vegan, like, oh, you gotta go vegan, let me just do part 2 of my speech here. So that's why I felt it was wishy-washy. You can look it up on YouTube, Eckhart Tolle vegan. Yes.
Hey James, when you're doing street activism, what is your verbal response to people who say they think vegans are pushy?
Yeah, that's a great question. For somebody like that, I would, body language, like try to take a step back. I'd ask a lot of questions rather than try to dictate a lot to this person. I'm like, okay, so why do you think vegans are pushy? What kind of experiences have you had with pushy vegans? Do you think that might be a bit of a stereotype, but maybe there's a lot of vegans who aren't pushy? Do you think maybe vegans just get a bit of a bad rap in the media because it's more interesting in the media to put this sort of extreme pushy vegan narrative out there? No, I'm a vegan, do I seem pushy to you? And eat this tofu burger. Yeah, so again, I just hear that rejection, and then I just try to combat it in however I can in the moment by being the least pushy vegan ever. For somebody like that, I wouldn't, depending on how the conversation went, it might get to a point where I thought I could probably say a few more things, but you know what? I'll just be like, all right, well, anyway, I'll talk to a few more people. I've taken up enough of your time. Thanks so much. Take care. And they're like, damn, that guy was really not pushy. He ruined my whole reality. So perhaps something like that.
And on that note, thank you so very much. We've got a big setup to do for the cookie guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody.